Today we're going to talk about RedCap. What is it for those of you who might not know, and why is it so important, especially in our IoT and first responder space, or critical scale space, I like to call it, where maybe you got thousands of units that you gotta worry about upgrading. And so we're going to dive in today and talk about RedCap and what it is and why it matters. My name is
Awesome.
Peter West. If you're new to the group, and with me is Travis Durek from Peplink. And so this is going to be a fun conversation today.
Yeah, I'm excited about RedCap. I think the name is not very exciting and I don't love the name, but overall it's actually really cool technology and I think it's going to matter to a lot of people.
It is. And what's interesting, when you first texted me, I don't know, maybe a year ago or a year and a half ago, and you're like, "Hey, have you heard about this RedCap stuff?" And I was like, "Huh?" I had to like Google, Google what is RedCap to figure out why it mattered in my world. It doesn't sound like an IT product. And so, and why don't you? I know you know this. Why do they call it RedCap?
So reduce capacity or reduce capabilities. I always forget which of the two it is, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's like a substandard of 5G for basically IoT type use cases.
and yeah, that takes us right into what this stuff is. So 5G RedCap is just 5G reduced capability, and the idea or capacity, and the idea here is you have a lot of customers that are running LTE products. I kind of was showing. I've got an MBX. I'm sorry, I'm doing an MBX install. I've got a BR1 Mini LTE, and this is I've got my my Wi-Fi, my LTE, and my GPS. And for the better part of 15 years, this was the standard. This is what we installed. And so you have thousands and thousands of companies that have installed these LTE devices, and they've drilled holes in the roofs, they've installed the 5G, the 4G antennas, they've built their infrastructure out on LTE. And companies, especially companies like T-Mobile and now AT&T offering N77 FirstNet capabilities, companies are offering more and more capability and capacity with 5G, but they're also going to start sunsetting technologies over the next couple of years. 3G is already sunsetted here in the US. I believe it's most of the world has been sunsetted for 3G. And then you have like 4G is going to start that. You're going to start seeing that here in the next little bit.
Mhm.
And so we need to be ready for that. We need to have the ability to go, okay, well, how do I get more throughput without and be capable, more throughput, but also be compatible with new technologies or current technologies, I should say. And that's why RedCap is so important. It allows companies that don't necessarily need more speed to be able to take advantage of more frequencies and more bands that are out there and available. And so it's, hey, my speed is fine, my connection is fine, but 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 I need to, but AT&T or T-Mobile is saying, hey, if I want to take advantage of 5G fixed unlimited plans, or I want to take advantage of some of the frequencies that are out there, I need to be on 5G. I need that 5G capability. And that is the idea behind RedCap, is basically upgrading your LTE network to 5G as simply as possible. That put that in a good terms.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of companies that use these types of devices for IoT. It's kind of an infrastructure investment to them, and so they don't want to invest in LTE anymore because that's, like you said, that's going to be a sunsetting technology, and they want to. So, they look at it as a 5 or 10 year horizon, and so that's where RedCap gives them that long-term kind of reliability and relevance. It's going to be something that the carriers are going to continue to support for many, many years.
Exactly.
But also just on the antenna side, the simplicity of it's two antennas, just like with LTE, it's two antennas. And,
Yep.
it sounds simple, but when, like you said, you've got thousands of locations, if you have to install an antenna now too, that's a ladder, that's a whole different expense and timeline than to have to install new antennas. So yeah, RedCap opens that path up to make it a lot easier to upgrade and again be on that long cycle then.
And so what is why does RedCap matter? Efficiency gains, extended battery life, better reduced operating costs. The idea, once again, these 5G plans, some of these are more affordable. And so being able to upgrade from an LTE plan to a 5G plan can reduce your operating costs, but also newer chipsets are more efficient, so lower power consumption and more efficient chipsets. Uh, one I kind of already said this a little bit, but it makes 5G accessible to more devices in the industry. So, being that it's a lower cost product, um, basically brings 5G to more people. That may not may be afraid to upgrade because of form factor, because of installation costs, and things like that.
Yeah,
Um, and
it
then,
brings 5G into that 4G price scale. Honestly,
yeah,
a lot of the times price is the what's held people back from 5G so far. Again, when they've got thousands of those devices. So, sometimes it's that simple too. But yeah, it's again, you've got that just kind of long, reliable path for 5G to stay relevant there. And we'll see more devices, like you said, that have better power efficiency and give you more flexibility there for unique situations. But yeah, a lot of it is just building on what that BR1 Mini does today and making it a 5G and again, bring that cost down.
I even think about someone maybe running like an old Max Transit Duo wanting to
Hmm.
go to dual 5G, right? I mean, having two red caps synergizing one into the other, I mean, for significantly less than the cost of even a new Transit Duo, you could have two of these devices synergized and have a dual 5G red cap. I'm seeing lots of people getting creative with Peplink, especially with synergy mode bonding and in control. The ability to go, okay, how can I increase my capabilities? How can I make this product last longer? How can I not have to drill new holes, not have to deploy on-site staff or technicians to run wire and rip an entire vehicle or take something down for a day. The ability just to have that 2x2 MIMO 5G, low cost, lower throughput, but not a lot of people need the high throughput that's
Yep.
available to 5G. I mean, we were doing some testing with the BR2 and T-Mobile 5G, not to boast a particular brand there, but we were doing a test and the customer was getting like 900, 1.1, 1.2 gigabits per second. And they're like, yeah,
Hmm.
our firewall only supports 150 megs. Like all we need is 150 megs. This is crazy.
Yep.
And so, the idea is that not everybody needs that super high speed that's available for, these high end performance, the 5G and R. And so being able to bring that in and keep the costs low and allow for future proofing, which is the next idea here. The idea that you can seamlessly transition from LTE to 5G as it gets phased out, just gives us more capabilities, more scalability, easier deployment for customers, making this being less afraid of the new technology because the form factor is the same, right? If I can keep everything the same, swap a power cord and a router, take the SIM card out, put in a new one, and now I've got 5G capabilities, especially if you think like FirstNet with the launch of N77, right? If we can keep things simple, then we reach more people with 5G.
Yeah, and I think the reliability, like you said, is what's really exciting here because RedCap isn't about the speed. It's about, embracing 5G technology, and that unlocks the things like slicing. And so you're going to see carriers pairing slicing technology with 5G RedCap plans so that you can get lower latency, lower packet loss types of experiences with lower throughput, albeit, but for people like utilities doing more real-time communications applications like that, those things are going to be really valuable. And whether it's a single RedCap device or like you said, if you're using SpeedFusion, you could bond to, and those aren't going to be to get more speed. Those are going to be to get even more reliability. And so, yeah, SA is just going to make RedCap even more valuable and useful to people out there.
Some of the benefits of RedCap, which we've kind of talked about a little bit, but I do like this slide. So even if we've already kind of hit some of it, is simplified design. Once again, two antennas reduces the cost. Optimized performance, taking that LTE networks and adding now 5G frequencies and capabilities. So we're going to have better performance, scalable operations, like you just said. Sometimes we get ahead of ourselves. we talk ahead of the slides, but network slicing, QoS, large scale deployments. I think about first responders a lot here. First responders don't need gigabit throughput. They need really reliable, 5 to 10 megs. If it, they need their CAD to work. They need their radios to work. They need to make sure that they're 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 able to reduce be connected, especially in congested and large areas, and having 5G, having slicing, having QoS, all these functions bring the ability for first responders to stay connected in highly congested areas. And so, bringing scalable operations is really, really important. And then, 5G core ready, right? As LTE starts to phase out, we want to make sure we're on that 5G core network and being able to have 5G SA, being able to have 5G as a your base technology is going to be huge for adaptability and growth.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we should point out here too, and this is a perfect slide to do it, is, we talk about 5G RedCap and SA and slicing and all these things, but there's still people out there that are like, hey, I don't even have 5G coverage yet. Why are we talking about RedCap? And the nice thing is these devices are backwards compatible with LTE, so you can still invest in a future-proof type device, but you get that LTE fallback experience even with the RedCap devices. So you don't have to wait for the coverage to utilize a device like this.
Yeah. And the other interesting thing about that too is a lot of people, I think what's happened is it's sort of like the marketing around the word cloud, things going to the cloud. I think what's happened with 5G is people think 5G is 5G millimeter wave, this 10 gigabit 5G ultra capacity. And so they on their cell phones, they're not running, 5G millimeter wave, they're running, maybe 5G sub 6. And this isn't a 5G talk, but the idea here is 5G is more prevalent than you might think. Even like you might think, oh, I've only got LTE or I don't have 5G. You might not have 5G millimeter wave, but most of the country at this point is covered by 5G sub 6, whether it's through T-Mobile, AT&T, or Verizon, or like I always like to do the combination of all of them, right? And so being able to have that 5G spectrum available to you gives you the ability to connect to those potential 5G networks. And I really, really like this slide because it highlights that evolution from LTE to full 5G NR. And so you think, your speeds, your LTE speeds, latency, but I love this right here, this bandwidth and spectrum, right? LTE sub 3 gigahertz, 20 megahertz per carrier. And then we go into 5G RedCap and it's medium range, right? We're sub 6 gigahertz now. So we've gone from 3 gigahertz to 6 gigahertz, 20 megahertz frequency range. And then you go, okay, well, what is full 5G? That's that sub 6 plus millimeter wave, 400 megahertz of frequency available to that radio, that 4x4 MIMO. And so you got your 2x2 MIMO, your 2x2 MIMO, and then your 4x4 MIMO. And so that I love that bandwidth and spectrum and MIMO slide here because it really showcases that middle range that 5G RedCap, that reduced capacity or reduced capability, for but the ability to jump into 5G here. And you
Yeah, and
can
I
see
think
here,
you'll see the carriers will behave like this too, I expect. You will see differentiated plans between these full 5G devices with all that bandwidth, all that extra spectrum, and the RedCap devices that will, again, it's still 5G technology, but they're going to be taking a smaller slice of that spectrum. And again, the plans will be sized accordingly, I would expect.
some of the applications that we've identified, but don't be limited by these. These are just ideas on areas to hit. I love this first one right here: retail and smart stores, point of sale systems, especially with slicing. These are
Yeah.
very low bandwidth applications. You're talking one or 2 megabits per second for point of sale, right? But you need the capacity, you need the reliability of 5G, you need that the SA or the slicing, and so the ability to have a very low power, small footprint device or solution that can help with point of sale applications is going to be game changing because it allows them to cost effectively scale to 5G without having to buy expensive 5G hardware when they don't need the throughput. They just need the reliability.
Yep.
And I think retail is going to be a massive opportunity for RedCap.
Yeah, again, like
Um,
you said, slicing, we know the carriers are targeting that application because it makes sense, right? You need those card swipes to go through and they're not fast, like high definition video, but they just need to go through. And yeah,
yep.
RedCap's a perfect fit for that.
And then industrial factory IoT. Once again, low cost, small, low power, easy to deploy, right? When you're talking about thousands and thousands of devices, 5G has been a cost factor there.
Yep.
The difference between CBRS, private 4G, private 5G, going up into macro networks, which are heavily available these days. I mean, imagine having no private 5G cost at all and being able to use macro 5G and use SpeedFusion to have a nice layer 2 network. So the ability to extend the capabilities of industrial IoT with private 5G or macro 5G, but super low cost. Once again, you're talking kilobits per second, but low latency, low cost, thousands of devices. So incredible. Kind of building on that, we go into enterprise facilities, right? Sensors, energy meters, HVAC systems, monitoring devices. We want a low cost, easy solution. And something that we're not really talking about, but I'm gonna talk about right here in this enterprise. I think about InTouch, RedCap and
Hmm.
InTouch. The
Yep.
ability to have RS-232, SSH. I mean, imagine you have 1,000 Cisco switches that you want to manage. Well, you could do that now very
Yep.
cost effectively with a BR1 Mini RedCap, and you can telnet SSH or even RS-232 right into your IoT platform or that out of band management platform. And you don't need a high bandwidth. You need a couple kilobits, but you need to be low latency. You want it to be readily available and low latency. And I think that you're going to see a lot of growth in the InTouch market next year as we launch more RedCap devices. I think InTouch is going to grow massively as we roll out RedCap.
Yeah, I think these BR1 minis with RedCap capability are going to become like often just an in-touch box to, for lack of a better term, right?
Yeah, it's so cheap, so
Yep.
inexpensive. I'm not supposed to say that word, but inexpensive. Yeah. So keeping the costs low and the connectivity and availability high. I also think about that when we talked about we remember we did that the Iridium satellite, right? That low bandwidth critical connectivity, pairing RedCap with low bandwidth like Iridium. Once again, keeping that cost low, but having that emergency backup with InTouch and In Control.
Yeah. Yeah, I think again, just the BR1 Mini, like a lot of people overlook the speed fusion capabilities on that. And, when you've got a RedCap connection and, a Starlink Mini, you use speed fusion for reliability there again. It's
Yeah,
not a quick thing, it's just you're bulletproof at that point. You've got two different, completely different technologies and, a pretty small
I
little
was
package.
um I was doing a site survey yesterday in Southern Indiana. So I'm in Northern Indiana today. Yesterday I was in Southern Indiana, and a customer running really high volume point of sale applications, but a bunch of IoT devices, a bunch of machines at their site, and they were struggling because they had backup internet, but it kept resetting the point of sale system every time it failed over. And so we took a BR2 Pro 5G and set up Starlink internet and 5G and bonded those to a Fusion hub. Now they have a single static public IP going, presenting themselves to their point of sale environment, keeping their point of sale up and running. They've had zero outages, even though they've lost outages of 5G, Starlink, and their ISP. They've had zero outages, and You could do that with a BR1 mini red cap. That I
Yeah.
mean, and that is to me crazy. That I mean, for a ridiculous amount of price, low price, because it's not high bandwidth. It's just I need it to work always. Like you've always said, and I love to build upon, but that level of nines, right? How many nines do we need? And we talk about point of sale and the ability to operate your business. You can't compromise on that. One or two sales covers the cost of a 5G SIM card. So being able to take advantage of that's going to be huge.
Yeah, no, you're
Um,
spot on. I mean that's just the cheapest insurance and it's the most reliable insurance too, right?
it is. And I'm going to skip smart cities because we kind of hit that with IoT and facilities, but that is a place to go. And the next one that I'm personally excited about, hence what I do every single day, right? Fleet management, the ability to have low cost GPS, cargo sensors, telemetry, logistics, and be able to offer 5G. Like the BR1 Pro 5G is just too expensive when you're talking about 20 or 30,000 devices. It's
Yeah.
just too much money. And it's going to be fun to work with AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile about how do we get RedCap plans. These how can we set up a 10 megabit per second, you know 20 gig plan for $5 or $6? Can we build a plan that allows you to roll out? And by the way, they have not offered that. I'm throwing this out there to the world. Hopefully Verizon or somebody or T-Mobile will see this video. Like, can we
Please.
build RedCap plan? Yeah, low bandwidth, low cost 5G RedCap plans, right? If we could have a RedCap plan that allows us to have 20,000 fleet that are now running 5G capable, get those guys off your network, off the 4G and over to 5G, and upgrade that infrastructure to 5G. I think especially with telemetry and logistics, you're going to see a massive uptick of RedCap adoption. And so we're going to need, but the world's going to demand a low cost 5G data plan. It's $50 a month is neat for our fixed wireless, but it's going to be, it's too much for a fleet, like, right? Um,
Yep.
so I think
Yep.
you're going to see pooled plans. I love the idea of pooled plans, where you're keeping that bandwidth low, sub gigabit per month. So anybody offering pooled plans, low cost connection plans, you're going to see a massive fleet adoption, especially with the capabilities of just swapping out a device, and having 5G capabilities.
Yeah, I think you're spot on though. Like the more we see the ability to reduce that monthly per line cost, the more you're going to see applications show up, right? That's going to
Yeah.
enable more and more use cases to suddenly, hit that green light. Because yeah, there will be, I think, a lot of plans with very significant flexibility there.
So let's talk about RedCap hardware. What are we going to be getting for RedCap? And I love this slide because it's showing this footprint, and I love that Peplink does this. Whether it's the BR1 Mini M2M or the BR1 Mini LTE or the BR1 Mini 5G. I kind of held this up at the beginning of the slide, but like that's a BR1 Mini, and Peplink has done a great job standardizing and keeping this form factor available to people. And so as we go from the BR1 Mini LTE into 5G or even the RedCap devices, we're keeping that footprint the same. So it's going to be really easy to use the same connectors, the same Velcro strip or whatever it is that you're using to mount it, and swap out that hardware. And I did not have this until this morning. Travis, thank you so much for showing us this information. So Travis added this slide this morning right before this presentation, but showing us what we can expect with RedCap. And the BR1 Mini RedCap model is going to be awesome. And Travis, you mind talking about this a little bit? I mean, you know more than I
Yeah,
do here because
so
this.
so basically we're gonna have two models with RedCap capabilities, and they're just exact upgrades of existing BR1 minis, right? So we've got the BR1 Mini M to M today with LTE, but now we'll have a RedCap version of that because there's just tons of those serial devices, RS-232, RS-45, and they want that DB9 port. They want to be able to, like you said, just use the exact same connector so that they can send a technician out and everything just goes in the same spot. And so that BR1 Mini M2M with RedCap will be great for those energy IoT type of use cases. But a lot of people just need cellular and or Ethernet and Wi-Fi as well. So we'll have just a standard BR1 Mini configuration with RedCap. And so, where you might have used that Cat 7 BR1 Mini before, this RedCap version will probably be the go-to now just for that long life cycle. But yeah, three Ethernet ports, just like the BR1 Mini today, and with that 5G RedCap, it's two antenna ports on the back for the cellular still, just like before as well.
And I
Yeah.
have to ask because I am a partner. So obviously, I step in as Professor P and Peplink here, but when are we going to be able to see these? I mean, I held up a fake one here, but what's the expectation on adoption of this technology, and when can we expect to see products? Do you
So
know?
we're moving fast. We've got devices with carriers already, and we've got a few devices out in the field testing right now. And I think we will see these officially launch in January.
Oh, wow.
Right around January, February, we'll start seeing products become available. So yeah, it's going to move quick. And again, it just opens up, I think, that upgrade conversation for so many customers that have kind of just been on the fence. Now there's a going to be a really compelling reason for them to look at that again.
I have a fire truck customer that bought BR1 LTEs A's from me 11 years ago. And they've been afraid to upgrade. That just they keep thinking, okay, 300 5G devices, and the cost of the antennas. It's the router's actually not that expensive. It's the
Yep.
install cost and the antenna. And so
Yeah.
having to go buy new antennas, then rip all those out, rerun the wiring, open up the vehicle, taking the vehicle down for a day to run all the cabling. So I can't wait to send some of these out to our first responder customers and say, hey, check this out. Just take your BR1 LTE and swap it out with a BR1 5G RedCap, and you now have RedCap Red 5G capabilities on your existing um, 4G install.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, that you're so right, right? The cost of the antenna, the cost of the installation is almost always more than the cost of the router itself. And so avoiding those costs will make this, I think, just catch on fast. This is going to be I think, a game changer for a lot of people this year. Or looking into 2026, I should say. I've already turned the calendar, Peter.
Yeah, right. I know it's so close. I mean, I've got doing work here in Indiana this week, and then next week I have Boston, and then I go to Texas, and then it's Christmas, and then New Year's, and it's like boom, done. And you're like, holy geez, it's going to happen so fast. We got a
Yep.
couple good questions. Josh asked for hardware sellers that work with carriers, what hardware are suggesting with Position RedCap, and it is going to be a BR1 Mini replacement. So the idea is, like we mentioned, and you might have asked that before we pushed up that slide, but the idea is that if you're running a BR1 Pro LTEA or a BR1 Mini M2M, this is going to be literally a plug and play replacement for you. So it's going to be really easy to upgrade from that LTE Cat 7 device or M2M device with DB9 up to the 5G RedCap. Um,
Yep. And we're still going to keep
so
the current BR1 Mini 5G. That's on the full 5G. That's the four antennas. That's going to remain.
yeah,
We'll have two new 5G RedCap devices in addition to that BR1 Mini 5G.
and Marcelo asked a really good question, which it's not really related to 5G RedCap, but I'm gonna answer and address it because it is kind of important. They need to upgrade the processor to all the units so we have IPv6 support. Those are two separate conversations. The first is processor. So every new chipset is going to have that SoC or that 5G processor. And I believe the RedCaps are X65, right? Versus X62.
I'm not
Do
sure
we,
what generation those fall into actually, but yeah,
okay.
you're definitely right. Each
Yeah,
generation they have a
yeah. So you're going to get the X60 or X70 series chipset in those. When we talk about IPv6 support, one of the biggest roadblocks to that for Peplink is SpeedFusion adoption. And so the the idea of, and we're hoping to, we've already tested some IPv6 adoption already, and so we're going to have some IPv6 support coming. Um, and I don't want to speak too much to it, but those are two separate conversations. You have the chipset, and then you have IPv6. And every time you buy a new Peplink router, you're getting that latest chipset. It's one of the really neat things that Peplink has done is making sure. I mean, it's why you have 5GD, 5GH, 5GN, 5GP, 5GK. You have all these different 5G chipsets that are making sure that we are trying to run the latest available chips that are certified with the carriers. And just because Qualcomm or somebody makes a chip doesn't mean that the carriers support that chip. And so we have to also go through carrier certification and and go from there. John asked a good question. What carriers have RedCap plans? I don't know of any RedCap specific plans, John. What I would be leaning towards are these pooled data plans and these lower cost, like per gigabyte plans that the carriers have, keeping the costs low. But I think it'd be really fun, especially with distributor relationships and partner relationships, to go to these carriers and push them for a nice RedCap plan, getting ready for these products to launch. And if we know they're going to be coming out here in January, making sure that we get that adoption, and have plans ready. But if you're using PepSims, if you're using so Brock just asked a question too. If you're using PepSims, we already have RedCap capabilities, right? I mean, the built-in Peplink eSIM is so ridiculously cost effective when you're talking about low bandwidth utilization. And so if you're doing low bandwidth utilization, you want T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon, and you want to take advantage of 5G across all of them, you can use the PepSim and basically push these out day zero with plans. You're just not going to be able to take advantage of SA and slicing and things like that. And so what we want to do is push, especially like T-Mobile and AT&T, to promote those 5G plans that are these reduced bandwidth. But I think it's going to be, and once again, I can't speak to the carriers, but it's going to be exciting to see how this evolves, especially in our first responders like T Priority and FirstNet.
Yeah, no specific plans for from our eSIM offering, but
Yeah.
those will all be compatible with the current eSIM plans to start. And then, like you said, once there's more eSIM or more SA or RedCap focused plans, then that's when we'll start to maybe see our own show up there as well.
Yep. Roman asked if the BR1 RedCap will work in 4G. Yes, almost all of our products are backwards compatible. So it will support 4G and 5G. So you will have both 4G and 5G, but it'll be 2x2 MIMO. I think we're going to be able to cut it a little short today. This is I don't have anything to demo. I wish I could swap something out, but I was trying to push Peplink for a demo so we could do an actual install. All I could do is basically be like, hey, here's an LTE device, and make it go, oh, here's a RedCap device. And so the idea is that it's the same. So we're missing the demo portion of it today, but Travis, a couple people asking, do we know what the price would be? Do we know what the price point's going to be on the BR1
Yeah,
Mini
so
RedCap?
I don't know the exact price, but it will be cheaper than the BR1 Mini 5G and, not cheaper than the Cat 4 LTE BR1 Mini. So it's going to be somewhere in between
Okay.
two price points, and I don't know exactly where that's going to land, but yeah, it will
So
be
it'll be
more
more
affordable
expensive
than.
than LTE, less expensive than 4x4 MIMO 5G.
Yep. And,
There you go.
so that's where we'll see it start, and if this
Yeah.
takes off really fast, that may push downward
So we're
too.
looking at a sub $600 price point then. We can
Yeah,
safely
yeah,
say.
absolutely sub
Okay.
600 and probably more like sub 500 still for sure. Almost
Okay.
guaranteed. Very, very likely.
Beautiful. Any other last minute questions? Like I said, unfortunately, I can't, because this is a pre-announcement, I can't show it off, swap out. But once the product is released, pay attention to Peplink University. I'll reach out to one of my first responders, and we'll do an actual field upgrade from LTE to RedCap for you. And we'll do a follow-up video of that, so that you can get that. Because I know Peplink University, one of the big things we want to do is show off how the technology works. And so we'll definitely make sure we do that for you. Um, any other questions? If we did not answer your question, feel free to reach out to us. Peter at westnetworks.com, Travis at peplink.com. or peplinkuniversity.com. And you can see the old videos here. We also have the YouTube channel, youtube.com/peplink. And all of these videos are live or recorded and published there. So yeah. So anyways, if we did not answer your questions, feel free to send us an email. And thank you, Travis, as always. I think that we're over 2 years now of doing these every single month. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you for your support of Peplink University channel and helping us share Peplink knowledge with the world. So I really appreciate that. And Merry Christmas, everybody.
It's a blast. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you, Peter. Take care, folks.